Good morning everybody and welcome back to my channel for another video. I just scared the shit out of Chicken, sorry. You're right. She's gone. Today I am going to be doing another installment of my true crime review series thing that I kind of started. I said in the last one that I was going to do like 5 documentaries or docu-series per video, but I've been a little bit distracted and started rewatching Bones, and I wanted to get these ones that I have watched like up and done before it had kind of been too long and my thoughts kind of strayed too far away from them. So I've got 4 here today. They are all again from Disney Plus, and I believe they're all docu-series, so 1 to 2 seasons, multiple episode type things. I'm just going to jump straight into it because I'm really excited to talk about them, because these I think I liked a lot better than the first like videos worth of ones that I watched. I'm excited to talk about them. Okay, so the first one is called Web of Death. It was 1 season, 6 episodes, and they were basically about how people on the internet kind of got involved in crimes or cases and helped solve them in different ways. And I thought it was going to be a lot of like, especially based off episode 1, I thought it was going to be about like, you know, internet sleuths and things like that. But I think every episode was something quite different, and it kind of showed all of the different ways that the internet can work and can help. Obviously there are some ways that it is not so helpful as well, but it's not just about like online sleuths and things like that. It had episodes that focused around like the use of Facebook or going live or podcasts and things like that. So it was pretty interesting. It wasn't one that grabbed me like off the bat. I didn't watch the first few minutes or the first episode and go, oh, I love this, I'm gonna speed watch it, you know. So it did take me a little while to get through it. But like I'm talking a couple of days instead of a day, because I'm chronic for watching these things in a day. So didn't absolutely grab me, but it was quite interesting by the end of it. I'm glad that I stuck it out. I will say that episode 2, I had guessed what had happened in about the first 5 minutes. It was one of those crimes that maybe because I do watch so much true crime and spend way too much time kind of like listening to podcasts and things like that, that it appeared very obvious to me. But it was interesting to watch the rest of the episode and see how it sort of played out and how the detectives kind of found all the clues and the evidence that came to that conclusion. Like we had the same conclusion in the end, I was right, but it was interesting to see the process and how they A, got there, but also B, proved that it happened. So that was pretty cool. Again, if you watched my first video, you'll know that I don't go super in depth with details on most of these cases because I don't want to ruin them for you guys. If what I talk about kind of sparks that in you and makes you feel like you want to watch it, I want you to be able to go and watch it and have the same first experience that I did. I don't want to be ruining anything for you. So if I'm being a little bit like annoyingly vague about some things, I do apologize, but I'm trying not to spoiler alert anybody. What I did find from this was from episode 3, there is a podcast called Truth and Justice done by Bob Ruff. I believe he was a fire chief that started doing like a podcast on the side because he wanted something a little bit more, you know, like hands-on to do with his life, and he started doing it just as a bit of a side hustle, but it's kind of taken over his life and he has helped so many people, and it's really cool. It's really interesting, and I kind of like to note down things like this from it because I do go off and listen to those things. Like I've gone off and listened to the Truth and Justice podcast a bit, and I think it's great. It's really cool what he's doing, and I think he's probably the perfect person to have a podcast like this, you know, because he was already working in like the emergency services and things like that, and he just seems like the most genuine, involved, caring person to be handling things like this, and it's been really cool. So not only do I recommend that you guys go and watch Web of Death as the series itself, but if you're into podcasts, maybe check out Truth and Justice as well. It's done by, again, Bob Ruff. Really cool guy. I think you might enjoy it. And the only other thing I really have to say about this one is the episode with Ed 8. I think it's 8. No, I'm pretty sure it's 8. You guys are going to have to go and watch this and then leave in the comments what you think happened, or like what you think the outcome should be, because I truly 100% believe that Ed is innocent. And I believe he has been let out of prison, but he has not been fully exonerated for the crimes that I believe he did not commit. Now, usually I don't give like 100% of my, you know, opinion on these things because I don't like starting a ruckus in my comment section, but seriously, go and watch this episode. I'm telling you to come back here and tell me your opinion because I got so passionate about this. I was watching this episode while I was building my cat tree and filming that video, and there's so much footage that I'm pretty sure I cut out 99% of it, if not all of it, of me just being absolutely flabbergasted by this case and by his treatment. I got so overcommitted. But it's fine. It's fine. Go and watch it. Let me know what you think in terms of like, would I watch this again? Would I recommend it to others, the whole series? Yeah, I think I would. Like I said, not all of the episodes grabbed me, but it was really informative. And I think a lot of people give the internet a bad rap because, you know, there are some pretty shitty things on there and we do need some rules and restrictions around certain things and age groups and things like that. But it really did highlight in a good way how the internet can be used to help us and continue to help us and learn, like, not learn, but teach us things, I suppose is what I'm trying to say. Dunno, I'll end it there because I'm rambling. The second one is called Beauty Queen Killer 9 Days of Terror. I had to read that one to make sure that I got it right. It is 1 season, 3 episodes, and I did in fact binge watch this one in one sitting. It was quite good. I didn't realize at the start that this was a survival tale. I thought that it was just one of my typical, like, you know, telling stories. I don't watch a lot of survival tales, but I'm really, really glad I watched this one. Really glad. Now, I'm pretty sure the woman who obviously survived him, I'm pretty sure this was the first ever interview she has given, talking about, you know, the whole experience, her story, her side, because it is, these kind of things are so traumatic. I can't imagine surviving something like this and just having to go on and live the rest of your life. Like, she was kidnapped and held ransom, but then because of everything that happened was essentially like blamed, like it was her fault, like she wasn't a victim too. A lot of people kind of treated her like that, and it's just like, it's wild to me. It's one of those things that you can sit here and say and have an opinion and, oh, I would have done this, I would have done that, but you truly just don't know until you're in that position. And she was so young as well. I think people forget that, like, she was so young. She was a kid. You can see that she is still very visibly haunted by the entire thing. Like, I think it was so strong of her to be able to sit and give an interview, because you don't have to. A lot of these people do because they want to talk about their stories, but if you don't, like, that's your choice. You don't have to relive this trauma again and again and again for other people's benefit if you don't want to. But, like, you can see the physical stresses that it took on her during the interview process. Like, she left a few times, she felt physically sick a few times, she had a stress headache, things like that, like wasn't sleeping, all of these kind of things because she was so stressed to even just sit down and talk about what this man did to her in her 9 days of terror, you know? And that's absolutely wild to me. I don't think I've seen an interview or an interview series that has been genuinely so raw from the survivor's point of view, because obviously a lot of people you'll see, especially if there's not a survivor, their family's talking about it, but you know this is going to be national or international television and you only want to give away so much. But I do really appreciate what this woman could give. She gave what she could, and it wasn't because she didn't want to give more. I think it's because her body genuinely just didn't let her. There were periods where they gave her like transcripts of her interviews and things like that, and she would read to a certain point and then say, I don't want to read this. I don't want to relive this. I can't. And on one hand, that did sort of like frustrate me a little bit because I wanted the details as a viewer, but I think that's definitely like the sense of entitlement that you get from all of this becoming so mainstream. Like, we get so heavily into true crime, there's such a huge community around it and it's so openly discussed nowadays that I think from some people there is definitely a sense of entitlement around it. Like, I want to know about this case, so why can't I? I'm just going to go and do the research myself, you know? And I think that definitely came out in me when I was first watching the series. I was kind of like, you know, can someone else read it sort of thing so that we can get it? But I think it was a really good representation of some things just don't need to be shared with the public. Some things deserve to stay private, and I respect that they did that for her. I do. I definitely had to check myself a little bit and be like, this is not your story to tell. These are not your facts to know. It is a privilege that this person has come and decided to speak about this, and you just, I was gonna say enjoy, but do you really enjoy? But ingest what you are given. Following that, there were also some moments in the transcripts where she would read it out and she actually said, like, oh, I don't even remember this. Because I suppose she talked about it in the moment with the police officers when she was, you know, young and having to give them all the details, but since then she's spent the rest of her life kind of like pushing it down and pushing it away and trying to live as a normal human being. So that was really strange to watch her go through the realization of some of these moments of, I had completely forgotten that that happened to me, and you be like, holy shit, this is a very, very real moment caught on camera. You know, it's a strange feeling to watch that. It's almost like you feel like you shouldn't be witnessing that, you know. It was, yeah, weird, but again, it's wild that you get to see something like that, and I think it teaches people a lot. The last thing that I'm gonna say about this is, not that literally anyone is ever gonna see it, but the girl Dawn, who was kidnapped as well, she was stabbed and left for dead, like in a forest wooded area type thing. Viciously, viciously attacked, 16 years old, crawled her way back onto the road and saved herself. And I'm just, the whole section hearing about that, I was glued to the screen, because what a badass woman. Like, I can't. I'm totally in awe of people like that. I was holding my phone like this, and I was sitting and I was not doing anything else because my mouth was just open. Like, what a woman. What a person. She was just, please go and watch this one so that you can be on the same level as me, because listening to what that essentially, I'm gonna call her a little girl, she was 16 years old, did to save her own life and then bring this guy to justice, like, it's absolutely wild to me. People like that, I can't help but want to like bow down to them for their strength and their courage and all of those things. I was absolutely astounded by the guts of this woman, you know, like, it's insanity. You have to go and watch this one. I think if any that I've ever watched lately have stuck in my mind, it was that moment from this little girl. She's an amazing person. She's so strong. The next one that I watched was called The Fox Hollow Murders, Playground of a Serial Killer. Again, had to read that one. I have my notes just like down here, so if my eyes stray down there, that's why. This is 1 season, 4 episodes, and this one is just filled with fuckery. Like, I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it. I'm not gonna hide it. It's just, like, there's no other way to explain it. It's absolutely fucking wild. So, there's this place called Fox Hollow, and basically, I don't entirely remember how the first couple bone fragments were found. I think it was by the son who was living on the property, and it kind of started this investigation, and there's just mountains. Like, I'm gonna spoil this one a bit for you guys. I'm so sorry, but I have to be able to talk about it. But they have found so far, this is only so far, 10,000 bone fragments on this property. 10,000 from so many victims. The guy who did this has been compared to John Wayne Gacy or Ted Bundy in terms of like his killing and luring prowess. He just did not get the publicity that they got. This is another one that I absolutely could not turn off. Like, if my phone could have gone inside my head to watch it, it would have been there. It was wild. I feel like every corner was something completely different to this investigation. So they had the investigators, they had, like, you see all the bone fragments, you see the victims, you see the connection to the victims, the people that they suspected, there's all the families to the victims who were like trying to figure out, you know, my loved one went missing around this time, could he possibly be one of these 10,000 bone fragments on the farm. It's just so much going on all the time. It is one that you actually really have to pay attention to if you're going to get all of it, you know. And the main suspect, who, look, he did it. I'm just gonna put that out there. He essentially admitted that he did it. He did take his own life, which I think is one of the reasons why it did not get as much publicity as it could have, because they didn't have that person to pin it on. You know, there was no court case, there was no trial, things like that. I'm not going to use his name because we don't do that on this channel. We do a little bit, but I think he's a piece of shit, and I don't want to use his name. But when he died, when he took his life, they kind of just went, all the investigators were like, okay, well, he did it and he's not here anymore, so all done. Like, wild. What about finding who all of these people are? What about digging up the rest of the farm to see if there's more people, you know? And they were kind of, at the time, the investigators at the time were sort of focused on who did it, how he was doing it, stopping him doing it. There was no focus on the people who were dying and like reconnecting them with their families. And I think a lot of that was stigma, because this is, it's obviously back in the day a bit, and it was about gay encounters. So, you know, back then there was a really, really big stigma against gay people, especially, you know, gay men, and they didn't put enough, in my opinion, weight on who these people were, the importance of these people and their lives and their families. So at the time, when the guy died, they were kind of just like, all done, all right, no problem anymore, I guess, and moved on. So now there's different people coming about this investigation in all kinds of different ways, doing like their own funding and their own researching to try and match as many of these victims to, you know, their families as possible. And I think that's beautiful. I just wish it had begun sooner. One thing I do have to say is that a really big part of this like thing was that for some reason the house was filled with mannequins, and I fucking hate that. That is my worst nightmare. There were like pictures, and no, that makes me not feel good. I don't like mannequins. That was the only bit that was like, anytime those photos came on the screen, it was like, why? I'm not just talking like one or two, and they weren't like dressed up like cute like they are in the stores. They just, no, it was fucked. Absolutely not. They talk a lot about a person who had a relationship with the main suspect. I'm gonna call him the main suspect, or the accused, because, you know, it wasn't, you know, he wasn't ever charged with anything. It wasn't 100% proven. Do I believe he did it? Absolutely yes. But there was a lot of talk about this guy. I'm going to have to use his name, otherwise it's not going to make any sense, but Goodwin, we're going to leave it at that. There was a lot of talk about him, about how he knew the accused, and, you know, what his partner was, his relationship was, did he know anything, was he also a potential victim? And they kind of like talked about it for quite a while, to the point of me being like, gosh, it would be so good to be able to hear from this person, you know? I just wish, thinking that he was dead or thinking that he was out of the picture, and then what do? They bring him in. Wild. This is what I mean. And it wasn't even helpful. Like, was it helpful and insightful in some ways? Absolutely, because he has a lot to say. He has a lot of first-hand accounts, but he also like denies a lot of things and tells different stories that we have absolutely no way to corroborate with anybody else, because a lot of these people are dead. And it's just like, as much as he was so helpful and it was so cool to have this person that was so heavily involved like actively have his own essentially interrogation again, like they walked him through the house, he told all sorts of things, and it just, some of it made your jaw drop because it put things together and it made so much sense, but then some of it was like it genuinely just added to the fuckery. And I can't verbalize it. It was just so interesting to hear from him and have him on site and involved. But at the same time, it was like, oh my God, like, you know? And the last thing that I'm going to say for this one is at the very, very end of the last episode, one of the guys that's working on it, I can't remember if he's like a detective or the coroner. I believe he was one of the main detectives that's working on it currently, but please don't quote me on that because I might be wrong. He read out all of the names of the victims that have been identified so far. And I believe there's a couple of different memorials that they showed that were really beautiful, and he talked about how sorry he was for how he approached the case at the time. And that he didn't put more importance on the people in the moment, and I just thought that was really beautiful. Like I spoke about literally just a few minutes ago, I think that it should have been handled differently, and I wish that it was, but we can't go back and change that. And just to have one of the main people who was working on the case and is still working on the case actually verbally say on an internationally like aired documentary how sorry he was for that approach and for, you know, the lack of work that he is now doubling down and making sure that this gets done, and he's putting all of his time and effort and money into making it right. I thought that was so beautiful. And I loved that they took a moment to actually focus on every victim, every named victim, you know, their families, all of that stuff, because I think quite often when we do like listen or, you know, involve ourselves in these true crime documentaries, it's either all about the person who did it or just so briefly about the victim, you know, like so much emphasis is put on the person and their psyche and what they were doing in their life and their habits. I don't think in any way that our victims are talked about enough. So to have like a special moment set aside just for them, and right at the end of the documentary where it's the last thing you see, the last thing that's going to stick in your mind, I thought that was fantastic. Would I recommend this to you? Absolutely. This along with the Ed episode of Web of Death. My memory is so bad, but yes, the Ed episode of Web of Death and then Fox Hollow Murders as a whole, I want you guys to go and watch, because it's going to change your freaking life. It's not going to change your life, but it is going to leave you absolutely mind fucked. And the last one I have for today, number 4, is called Me Hereafter. Now it is 1 season, 4 episodes, and this one was done a bit differently. I have never seen a documentary or a docuseries done like this. There probably are a heap of them, I just haven't seen them. And it was done as if it was narrated by the deceased person. So I don't know if they got like permission from the families to use like voice tapes and that was their actual voices. I can't imagine that that's what happened, but I'm thinking maybe they just found someone who sounded similar to them and they narrated it from the perspective of the person telling the story of what happened to them in depth and like afterwards. During the investigation, I suppose, afterwards. So I liked that about the docuseries, but I did find like a few moments kind of didn't sit quite right for me, and I think that's just a me personally thing, because I loved that they did that and I loved how it like flowed and told the story. There were just a few instances of like where they would say things like, I'm so alone and cold and afraid, and my brain, because I'm overly analytical, goes, there's absolutely no way you could know that, you know? And I think that's just me being a little bit of an asshole, because obviously that's probably what that person was feeling, but it kind of pulled me back out of it. Rather than being able to be 100% involved and enthralled, I did kind of have a few episodes where I'm like, can you really say that though? Because you don't know that that's what they were thinking. Because there were other things, you know, like they would say, oh, I'm so in love, or I'm so happy in this moment, and you're like, but you weren't there, you don't know that. That would be my only tiny little gripe about that. But I do think it's a really, really cool approach, and I want to watch more documentaries and docuseries that do approach it like this, because I think it's really interesting. Oh, fuck off. I've just remembered what case I have to talk about, and it's going to make me cry. This one might be a rough one. Oh my god, I said I had a favourite, but like as I'm going down the list and talking about each one, I'm remembering just how good they were. I want to go back and like scratch wherever I said this is my favourite, this is the best one. These are all fantastic docuseries and I want you to go and watch all of them. Okay, so I will give you a warning if you are going to watch this one. They have real case photos in colour. They don't hold back, you know, like information, details, things like that, okay? So quite often when you watch these things, they will grayscale them to make it a bit easier to deal with, you know, blood and gore, or they might blur some stuff. And while I think they do blur a little bit in here, this documentary is very raw. It's very in your face. You see real photos as they were taken, you know, you get real details, very in depth. So if you are a person that does get a little bit squeamish around those things, I'm not sure that this docuseries will be for you. But if you're a person like me who, you know, isn't affected by that kind of stuff, I just appreciate the raw honesty and the raw facts, because that's who I am. I've talked about it in my previous one as well. I like facts. I like to know what's going on, what happened, and that's partially because I'm nosy as fuck, like, let's be real. That's why we watch these things, because we want to learn, we want to know, we are nosy. But it's also because I think it does the victim justice to be telling their story correctly, you know, rather than pussyfooting around things to try and save the viewer comfort, or even in some cases it's to protect the killer and not make them appear as depraved as they are. No, I don't like that. I think if you're going to be involved in true crime and watching true crime, you should be there for the details, because it's what happened. You need to be able to understand exactly what that victim went through and be able to kind of empathize or appreciate exactly what happened to them, what they were feeling, you know, because the family has to. They had to. So why shouldn't I? And that's just how I feel, personally. 2 cases that really, really stood out to me from this one. All of them were very, very well done. I will put that out there. 3 of them were done by females. There was only 1 done by a male, I believe, and that is the one that absolutely broke my heart. So we're going to talk about that last, and I'm going to do my best not to cry. But the case of Savannah Greywind, who was killed for her baby. Again, spoiler alerts, if you are going to watch this, I'm going to spoil these ones for you. It was just wild. The family was so unwaveringly loyal to their daughter through and through. They knew what happened from second one, and they did not let up until they got, you know, their truth. And I just thought, like, it hurts your heart, because to love their daughter so much that, like, you see everything that they did for her, knowing that she was, you know, hurt or unfortunately dead. Like, you have to wonder, or it makes you realize, I suppose, just how much she was loved in real life, like how much they loved their daughter. Hearing the woman talk and cry and whine about the experience and what they chose to do, because, you know, again, spoiler alert, they fucking killed this woman and cut out her baby. It's absolutely fucking vile. I'm pretty sure she's going to be in prison for the rest of her life, but I kind of hope she gets YouTube and sees this video just so I can tell her exactly what a giant piece of shit I think she is. And her partner, both of them. They do the typical thing of blaming it on each other, and this is what they wanted, this isn't what I wanted, you know, but the act is just absolutely feral. And I'm not going to hold back on my discussion about that. They were pre-planned, calculated. They had everything laid out in front of them. She carried the baby around in a bag to hide it from people, for fuck's sake. Like, and it was 2 floors above where this woman lived. The family knew instantly what had happened. And I do just want to say, the team working on the case did everything right in my eyes. They had to stick by the book. Like, it doesn't matter how much the family knew, because they didn't have any proof. There's only so much the police can do, and I know that's so frustrating, but if they had done things against the book, there potentially would not have been a conviction. So I think the police and the teams did everything right. I think it was just a mixture of really bad timing and really bad luck that made it take so long to get this figured out. That's just me. I think it's the first episode. I'm pretty sure it's the very first episode, and it's absolutely shattering. So if you're gonna watch that, please beware. And the last episode was heartbreaking, and I probably am even gonna cry talking about it, because I cried watching it, and that doesn't happen to me very often. Like, yeah, I'm a little bitch and I cry at a lot of things, but I don't typically cry at, like, true crime stuff. it's got to be really good to get me. And the victims, Dan and James, both wonderful people. James was very, very young, I believe, and his life was just taken from him so senselessly just for being a witness. Like, and how sad is that? Dan was described by literally everyone as just what sounds like the best kind of person on this planet, and I think that's what makes it so unfortunate, is that when you hear of these stories, 99% of the time it is just these people who are absolute balls of light and sunshine and like the embodiment of kindness and love and all of that stuff, and that really fucking irks me, I'm not gonna lie. But he was just a good person, and I think that's why I was so upset by it. Oh, don't cry. And this is another person that I'm fairly sure, yeah, the perpetrator in this case took his life as well, and that makes me so fucking angry. Because they don't get, like, the family doesn't get justice, and I know a lot of people don't think that sending them to prison or anything counts as justice, or I think the type of people that Dan and James's family were, they probably would have been the type to forgive in time anyway. But for me, I just think after you've done something like that, if you then take your own life, it's the most cowardly fucking thing. Like, I was so angry, and I saw it coming too. It's another one of those ones where the way they tell the story and the events leading up to it, you can just tell what's gonna happen. So I was getting saltier and saltier as it went on, and then they finally said that he'd taken his own life, and I'm pretty sure he did it in a fucking church too, which is disgusting just on its own. But this guy was pretending, well, not pretending, I was gonna say pretending to be a priest. He was a priest. He was a dirty, dirty person. And y'all know that I just speak my mind, and this episode made me so fucking angry. So angry. I'm gonna have to cut it short, or I'm gonna say some really dirty things, but he who shall not be named, rot. Honestly, rot. You're a piece of filth. I have nothing else to say. He took 2 absolutely wonderful, innocent lives to try and save himself. And I don't know what he thought he was doing that he would get away with it. Because, like, yeah, you got away with it for a couple of years, but, like, you're supposed to be a man of God. You should know that shit's gonna come back around. Ugh, yuck. Anyway, do I recommend you watch me hereafter? Yeah, absolutely, I do. Because it was great. And that's how you know that it was so, so well done. Because it's very, very rare for me to get so, like, emotionally invested in, like, a documentary or a docuseries or something like that. Because there's such a quick kind of, like, flyby thing, you know. But this was so, so well done. I can't even think about them too much because they made me angry. But that's me for this video. Thank you for listening to me ramble all over again about my true crime hobby, I suppose you could call it. If you guys have any documentaries, docuseries that you think I should watch so that I can do another installment of these, please let me know. I am always on the lookout. Like I said, I'm watching Bones at the moment, but like I can make 2 things work at a time. If you want to see me do another one of these, please let me know down in the comments, or if you have watched any of these yourself and you want to talk to me about them, please do. I love having discussions. Otherwise, make sure you like this video, subscribe if you want to see more of my content. I do upload every Sunday, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!